Here to sing is pop star Jesso.
The same old streets, the same old streetcars, numbers 11 and 4. The same young boys who try and meet cars, buy a newspaper they implore. The self-same sky, but something's not right. The man beneath the sky, uncomprehending, shines the sunlight, and I hear a voice inside me cry. And must it be this way? Must it be this way? Faith gives one man great happiness, while yet another lives in distress. And who was it that did say the world shall be this way? I ask, it eats my heart out. Must it be this way? Yes, be this way. Them the boulevards and squares, while I live in a slum. Why must I suffer mocking stares? I weep hot tears till I grow numb. What's this inscription on the wall? You may not go past here. Why do I give my home, my all? At night I lay me down in fear. And must it be this way? Must it be this way? Fate gives one man great happiness, while yet another lives in distress. Who was it that did say the world shall be this way? I ask, it eats my heart out. Must it be this way? Yes, be this way. I ask, it eats my heart out. Must it be this way? Yes, be this way.
Please welcome Brett Werb of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum and Kelly Zaney of the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center.
Hi, Chicago. I've stepped up here to say a few words about how the songs on tonight's program happened to come down to us. When I arrived in Washington many years ago, my task was to build a music collection for the then new museum. The goal was to find objects, recordings, music scores, song sheets, diaries, memoirs, anything that documented music making in the ghettos and camps. What I actually found was, for me, truly eye-opening. because what I found was that this work of rescuing the evidence had already been done by men and women infinitely more qualified for the job. Poets, playwrights, folklorists, educators, historians, survivors of the ghettos and camps, and their colleagues from the diaspora had set to work even while the war still raged. And in its aftermath, saw to it that the material they'd painstakingly collected from the Jewish displaced persons would be preserved in archives and in print. By and large, this material consisted of Yiddish songs written and sung by the people, men, women, and children caught up in genocidal war. The partisan fighter and song collector Kaczerginski recalled, day-to-day Jewish life in the ghetto with all its attendant phenomena, jail, death, forced labor, the Gestapo, Jewish power holders, internal issues, and so on, found its mirror in this bloody folklore. Easily learned and passed along, seared in the memory of those who survived, many of these songs testified to events and experiences otherwise lost to history. Israel Kaplan, another important collector of Shoah songs, observed that for the survivors, quote, memory is our archive. Historians anxious to gather proof of Nazi transgressions regarded this repertoire as primary source material, useful perhaps as evidence in war crimes trials. In time, however, it became apparent that the literature of the Shoah, the poems, folk songs, and other creative outpourings spared from destruction, would constitute the last great phase of Yiddish artistic expression on its native European soil. That most of the song collecting was done among Yiddish speakers and appeared in Yiddish publications meant that this repertoire became increasingly invisible in the decades following the war, and needless to say, for reasons directly attributable to that war. So, concluding this short story, I had only to open my eyes to documents long since deposited in archives and to books already on shelves in order to accomplish the large part of this music collection building mission. Some of these early songbooks are in the spotlight tonight. They're the sources for many of the songs we've been hearing. Credit where credit is due, so credit also to Ira Antelis and the creative team behind tonight's program. Upholding the legacy of the pioneering music scholars Ruth Rubin and Chana Molotek, they are bridging the culture gap and bringing this repertoire to the attention of new generations of performers, such as those shining on this stage tonight. Thank you.
The songs and testimony we hear this evening speak to one of the purposes of Holocaust remembrance and education, and is core to the mission and work of Illinois Holocaust Museum. It is simply this: to tell the story. Each one of the victims we remember today represents a story, a human life, albeit a story and life cut short. Years from now, it is these individual stories and the stories of those who survived, along with the lessons they implore us to teach, the complexities of human behavior, the legacies of prejudice and discrimination, and the destructive force of indifference. They serve as a warning and ones we must continue to not only learn, but to teach. It is the stories that we will need to be the key to the future of continued awareness and knowledge of the Holocaust, told by the descendants, community members, leaders, singers, and musicians like this evening, and by museums like ours. This is one way that will keep the history alive as we mark 85 years since the November pogrom. The next two songs will be performed as a duet. First, a Yiddish kind, a Jewish child. As a teenager, Hannah Heitin worked in a brush factory in a ghetto in German-occupied Lithuania, where she wrote songs for her fellow workers to sing. She was deported to several camps and carried her music to each before her liberation in 1945. A Yiddish kind describes the fate of many children who were hidden and in some cases raised by non-Jews. These brave individuals risked their own lives to save others. In hiding, the young children were encouraged to forget their Jewish names and their past lives, erasing their identities in order to survive. Our second song, Rifkala de Shabastika by Pesach Kaplan, reflects on a massacre in Bialystok during the first 2 weeks of German occupation, when 4,000 Jews were murdered in an open field. Many women heard news of their husband's demise but did not believe it, so they continued to wait for them and became known as the Sabbath widows.